Hi, this is the Ed Literacy Group 549 class. I'm Danny.
I'm Angie.
And this is Kirk.
And today our podcast is going to be a conversation about articles that we've read on the topic of reading comprehension.
One big idea that we've seen in our articles is a question-answer relationship strategy. And this is basically a widespread communication technique that is meant to standardize instruction throughout a school, a grade level, so that different teachers can be saying the same thing and all get on one page. This is kind of a big idea in general in schools, but now there's a way to develop it in reading comprehension. Danny, talk a little bit about what you've seen in your experience in your schools as far as school-wide interventions.
So I definitely find the importance in using common terms across grade levels. As I've seen in my school, this is built in the culture of the school and how teachers are in their classrooms up to the instruction in the school. And if the common terminology is used across all grade levels, then students can really dive deep into the content, into the curriculum that they're studying, rather than having to think about what the terminology means and introducing the terminology.
And that's actually a good point here too, because in one of my articles, Hirsch states that a barrier to learning good comprehension is when children are constantly moving from school to school. And so this would help that if a whole district had everything going at the same rate and using the same vocabulary and strategies, then it would help the kids to not have to learn new things all the time.
So this strategy is supposed to have the ability to help students prep for the high-stakes standardized tests that we're now seeing without undermining the higher-level thinking skills and interacting with the text through reading comprehension.
Kirk, are you able to expand on any of the practices that students use to help make information from the text?
Yeah, in the article by Raphael, they talk about the basic framework for the QAR, or question-answer relationship, where you're looking for information. You are searching for meaning in the book, or sometimes you have to search for the information in your head. When you have to look in the book, oftentimes it's right there in the book where the text explicitly states the answer to whatever your question might be.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but that is one of the lower level thinking skills.
Yes, correct, Danny. This is just this is the most basic skill is taking text right out of a book and getting the meaning for that. A little bit more advanced on that is the think and search portion of in the book, when that might include having a simple list or a description or an explanation or a sequence. But when we get into the higher level thinking skills, it's trying to decipher information that's in your head. Sometimes you have to draw on your own experiences. Other times you have to draw on something that the author is saying and how that connects to you, like a text to self connection, or a text to the author's theme connection, or even a text to your world experience connection.
I can see how this strategy correlates back to increasing student comprehension by using standardized terminology across grade levels and school-wide.
On another note, another interesting piece to the comprehension puzzle is from Hooper in regards to online reading behaviors. For example, when you're reading materials on the internet, you'd be skim reading or scanning Perhaps you're hopping from site to site, browsing, and easily getting distracted. Now, while this can have positive effects on how efficient you are, or how flexible your reading can be, or how cost effective online reading is, there are also studies showing that this can have negative effects on your short-term and long-term memory. You're lacking in concentration when you're reading, and as a result, your comprehension of online reading materials is decreased.
You know, a lot of times when I'm on the computer reading, I notice there's a lot of distractions that could be going on that I maybe wouldn't have when I was reading a book. Sometimes I'm looking all over the place, clicking on other tabs, and things are popping up, and it just seems to me I'm a lot more scatterbrained when that happens.
So I'm wondering, in relating this to the classroom, what kind of habits might we be seeing from this younger generation that is very much in the digital age?
Now, you won't see this as much in the primary grades, but I'm sure in middle school and high school, where they've got their own devices, if they're sitting there researching something on their phones or laptops, and then a text message or an email comes in, they're going to be switching gears and getting distracted, and then just not being able to focus on what they need to do.
It's a definite case of diverted attention.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there are some skills or how to teach the skills to aid in student comprehension.
Well, for a long time, people have gone to reading comprehension strategies in a package approach, where they teach multiple strategies at once and try to master all these strategies. And recent research through Presley has shown that maybe that's not quite such a good idea. In fact, learning one strategy at a time and mastering that strategy over a period of time, maybe a couple weeks, maybe a month before introducing a different strategy, has actually had very good results and shown to be perhaps more effective than the package approach. What have you guys seen in that as far as learning new skills in your classrooms?
I can definitely see how learning one strategy at a time would be really useful, no matter what skill you're learning. Let's say, for example, you're learning how to play basketball. You're not going to throw a kid in the game and expect him to be perfect at dribbling and shooting and passing right off the bat. You're going to want to teach the skill of dribbling, then teach the skill of shooting, and in the end, you're going to mix them in together. And I'm sure there are strategies in reading that you want to teach one at a time, but in the end, they might pair really well together.
Yeah, some basic strategies used by good readers are things like prediction, questioning, seeking clarification, relating to background knowledge, and that's a very important one. Constructing mental images and summarizing. And yes, we can use these skills, 2, 3 at a time sometimes, but in order to really master one of them, this thought of having students really focus or work on one of them specifically for a period of time until they really get a mastery of it before going on to the overall other main skills and adding them one at a time kind of in their tool bag.
One thing we need to remember, according to Duke and Pearson, is that comprehension instruction should be balanced. So you need both implicit and explicit instruction in those specific strategies, along with having a large amount of time and opportunity for that authentic reading, writing, and discussing of texts.
I agree that the amount of time in comprehension instruction should be devoted to students being able to spend time discussing and building meaning of the text. In Bitter and her colleagues' article, she talks about teachers facilitating some of this conversation through the use of higher level questioning and prompting, and really holding students accountable to the conversations they're having, in that they're building meaning and being engaged in the text.
Sort of brings up a controversial topic for me by Presley, in which talked a little bit about whether or not to instruct young readers explicitly in reading comprehension. Typically, K through 3 students focus primarily on word recognition skills and fluency until they get comfortable with that to the point where they can start to work on their reading comprehension skills. However, lots of new research is going against that. They are believing that explicit instruction at the very beginning for reading comprehension is much more important and will help the students' success.
Kirk, this reminds me of a story you were telling Angie and I earlier about your frustration of having to self-teach reading comprehension strategies in the past couple of years.
Yeah, I don't feel like I was ever explicitly taught advanced reading comprehension strategies. When I was growing up, I always read very slow, and the way I read, I hear my own voice when I read. I say every word, and it's no faster than the speed at which I talk. And you can imagine that maybe at first that was all right, but I get to the point where I go to advanced grade levels, and the need for extra reading speed is very important. And I have the issue where I just can't keep up. Reading every word, it makes me go way too slow. And what I've realized is that instead of reading every word, I have learned now to skip words and basically just read the bigger words. This is sort of an advanced reading strategy, and it was never really taught to me. But now my comprehension seems to go much quicker because I'm able to only focus on the important bits of information, and therefore the information comes into my head much quicker, and I'm less distracted. I feel like if a teacher at some point in time would have actually modeled what was going on in their head, exactly how they read, not just when they read a book or like a novel, a fictional book, but maybe nonfiction, they're reading for information. If they were able to model that strategy or multiple different strategies that they may use from the time I started reading, I would have actually realized that there is a couple of different ways to go about it. It's not just one issue where you just continuously read word after word and hear yourself read.
Kirk, that's an excellent segue into the topic of reading for different purposes. I'd like to revisit the Hooper article about online versus offline reading. And to quickly define, we talked before about online reading being any material you can access and read via the internet. But there's offline reading as well, anything that you could access on paper, in print, and also having material that's downloaded or material on an e-reader. And this study found that, in fact, comprehension increases with most individuals when they're reading offline. Most of the time people are reading offline to have prolonged exposure with the text, really pulling material out of it, increasing their comprehension, their concentration and interaction with the text. And most of the time they're reading offline for enjoyment as well. So let's think about ourselves or even our students. Though this survey was done with older adults, and I myself am in the same boat, I definitely find that I need to be engaged in offline reading when I need improved comprehension of a text. And so I wonder if we need to think about our younger students and if that should be something that we require of them with certain texts.
I interact with texts offline much easier than online. I find that I need to be able to highlight information, maybe move the paper around, actually physically and tactically handle the book in order to really immerse myself in the text. So many older adults probably have this same issue. The younger adults or children also are less used to books and paper and probably much more aware of the digital age and can probably learn a little better online.
It's almost as though some of those skills of reading online are more inherent of these students.
Let's talk a little bit about word recognition instruction. It's a little bit controversial on the limits of word recognition instruction. A lot of people think that fluent word recognition equals fluent reading. Danny, what do you think about that?
I actually disagree. I think that being a fluent reader is much more than sounding fluent. I think that as you're decoding quicker, you're able to spend more energy comprehending the text, and part of being a fluent reader is being able to comprehend and interact and discuss and talk about that text. I think about my students reading in Spanish, and a lot of them can pronounce a lot of the words and sound fluent, but on the other hand, are they really understanding what they're reading? And so I don't agree that fluent word recognition equals fluent reader.
I agree, Danny, if only because when I was a kid, I could read, but I didn't necessarily comprehend what I was reading. And the same goes for today. I need to find some of those strategies to work on just myself so that I can teach my students in the future how to decode and figure out those strategies of comprehending what they're reading. So when teachers are able to use assessment, because as Duke and Pearson say, it needs to be continual and ongoing assessment that accompanies this comprehension instruction. They can monitor the use of those strategies that their students are using or not using and respond right away and get some explicit instruction in that if they need to.
I honestly think that's the hardest part about being a teacher, that ongoing instruction and knowing where every single one of your students is and how you can support them and move them toward their goal of being successful in the classroom and as a person
In society.
Yeah.
That ongoing assessment is so important in a teacher's ability to adjust. The number one thing I believe that a teacher has to understand is to know your student.
That's a powerful thought, Kirk. And on that note, we leave you with the blooper reel. We'll respond and share personal experiences.
Ow.
Ow.
Presley.
One other interesting fact from Hooper and Harrod. I can't even say it!
Why don't you just say Hooper?
One other okay. Hairthin.
Harrison Ford.
Oh no!
Ooh, we're getting punny.
Okay.
All right, ready?
Are you recording?
I am.
Okay. So on a little bit of a... Oh my God.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
That's a complete jerk move. Did you stop it again?
Nope.
Sort of brings up a controversial topic for me by Raphael. No, damn it. It wasn't by Raphael.
I agree that the amount of time in... Just let me go again. Do you have to stop it?
That's a great time to talk once, because I told a childhood story, you tell something, or even just doesn't have to be childhood. It could be a now story. And if you have to do it multiple times, you can. What? You hit the button already? Damn it. I think that the younger students are much more acquainted with the idea of, damn it. I completely lost my thought.
You can pick up from idea of.
Yeah.
That's how you spell segue?
Segue.
How do you spell it?
Segue.
Segue.
Is it a Romance language word? Is it French?
Maybe. Oui, oui.
Kirk, that's an necklace. Kirk, that's an.
Damn it. I didn't know she hit the button.
Just let me go. Oh. Killing a bird with 2 stones.
At least let's kill a bird with 2 stones here.